G'day, I'm Luke from Drifta, and this is my mate Jakob from Czech Republic, and he's been working for us for the last year or so. And we're out here camping, as we often do, in our favourite little spot, in the Barrington Tops, New South Wales. And I met Jakob about 20 years ago in America. I used to work there as a mule packer for a little while, and we'd take hunters and tourists into the mountains in the Cascade Wilderness of Washington State, North America. And I just started as a guide, and I remember I was sitting there one day in my boss's kitchen, and this big Czech guy walked in, Leos Szymanek, which is Jake's dad, and they just hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, which is from Mexico to Canada. What's that, 3,000 miles or something, Jake?
Yes. We did parts of it, and wanted to do the last part on horses. So that's where we pulled up at this range and asked for a guide. Yeah.
So I was, again, I'd never guided by myself before. I was just, I was an apprentice guide, really.
How old were you?
About 22.
22?
Yeah. Anyway, Leos, he was trying to explain in broken English to Claude how he had to do this trip, and because they'd hiked, over 8 months, the whole Pacific Crest Trail with Jake and his mum and his little sister Veronica, who was just 3 at the time. So Veronica was, she's I think the youngest person ever to hike the whole Crest Trail, which is pretty amazing. She got carried a bit by her dad and walked a lot of it. Anyway, so Leos wants to do this trip. He wants to do the last about 80 miles on horseback, and Claude had said to him, "Look, mate, I'm sorry, but we can't do it because we've got no guides left." And Leos said, "No, look, I've got it. You don't understand. I've got to do this trip." And Claude's like, "No, sorry, mate. We just can't do it. We've got no guides." And he's sort of joking, he points over to me in the corner and he goes, "All I've got is this bloody Aussie over there." And Leos is like, "Perfect." So anyway, that's how I got the job. So we went out and got a couple of horses, and so there's 5 of us. And Claude gave me 2 of his best mules, Mike and Greasy, which were quite old mules, but his best, quietest, most gentle and well-behaved mules that he had, which was very lucky. So we loaded up all our gear into 2 mules and drove in a truck to the track head, and Claude sort of scratched me a bit of a map in the dirt. He was a 2nd generation mule packer, and he'd been there all his life. And he basically said, "Righto son, we're here, that's Canada, camp here, and then come back." And off you go. So that was it, really. And you were 10, Jake, weren't you?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 10 years.
So
we head off. I can put some pictures from the trip in the video.
Yeah.
And show what we did. It was like a 4 days trip, was it? 4
or 5 days.
4 or 5 days, and we had tents and pulled up for a camp. Let the horses run around, catch them in the morning.
Yeah,
what was the story about the other people?
The hikers.
Yeah.
So what you used to have to do is, we'll put some photos up. So it's sort of it's America's high country. It's a beautiful country. Anyway, because we're riding every day, the horses and mules have to be let go at night so they can feed. And it's very important that they get a good feed during the night so they can work during the day. So what we used to have to do is I'd tie my horse up, Buffalo, to a tree, and then we put a bell on one of the mares and let everything go. So there's 4 horses, 2 mules, just let them go in complete wilderness. We're a long way from home, and we just watch which direction they go at night, and in the morning get up quite early, about 4 o'clock. You have to go and track them down. And so it's pretty nervous for me at the time, because it's the first time I'd done it, and the horses, they could literally just wander home, really. And they've been known to do that before, or they could wander off wherever they like. There's no 4-wheel drive tracks in the Cascade Wilderness. There's only access by horseback or helicopter or walking, so it's not like there's any tracks or anything around. It's absolute wilderness. Anyway, so headed off one morning, and you know, I'd been taught how to track a little bit, so I'd been learning a lot, and I really enjoyed learning about that. And you could see where the horses had been picking grass, and you could literally just follow that. Sometimes a footprint, a bit of horse crap in the ground. And anyway, I come across this big meadow and saw this camper, like a hiker, just in a sleeping bag, just in the middle of the meadow. And I thought, that's a bit strange, and sort of walked past him, and you know, he's just a sleeping bag right in the middle of this beautiful green meadow, no tent or gear or anything in sight. And then I kept walking along on the horse, and then there was another one, another sleeping bag, like a bright orange sleeping bag. And I thought, this is a bit weird. Anyway, I kept going, and then we got to this little dam with a tree, and there was a tent there. And there's all my horses right underneath the tree, right next to the tent, with the bell around it, and they were just that horse has had their bell on his neck, and he's just like ding-a-ling-a-ling all night. And the hikers just got so cranky that they walked off in the middle of the night with their sleeping bag and camped in the bush, you know. So there was still somebody inside the tent, and they pulled their head out and gave me a bit of a dirty look. Anyway, got the horses, and once you get the horses, it's sometimes a little bit like Memphis Snow River, you know. You've got to round them up and bring them back to camp. Sometimes when they see you, they just take off, and you've got to just round them up, so take off around them. And I mean, sometimes, or most of the time, they're pretty calm and they'll just wander back. But you know, you've got to get those horses back to camp. And as soon as you get them back to camp, you've got to tie your horse up real quick. Make sure you tie it up really well so it doesn't, you know, take off. If you lose your own horse, your night horse, then you're stuck, because you just cannot, you know, get your horses back again. Really, you're on foot. So anyway, tie your horse up real good, quickly jump off and grab as many mules and horses as you can and tie them up to a high line, which is a rope between trees. And once you've done that, then you're right, you know, it's panic's over, and we can start, you know, packing up camp and loading the horses again. So yeah, I did that for 3-4 days, and you know, it's quite a. There was one time from that morning, Jake, you remember? Again, I didn't have a map, and I was heading sort of, I think, northeast out of a valley. And Leos was sort of saying, well, I don't know, Luke, I think it's we got to head northwest. Like, no, I think we head that way. And I didn't really know, to be honest. Anyway, Leos had a topographical map. He's a map guy. So we looked at the map, and we aligned some peaks with the map and worked out where we were, and he was right. We had to head the way he wanted to head. So I was lucky. And yeah, it's quite an adventure, really. So I got to know Leos and Lenka, his wife, and Jake quite well, and Veronica, and kept in touch. And see, Leos, can you explain what Leos does with his trips and when he gets home?
Like this trip was for him kind of work. So he started doing that when he was younger, and then he just took his backpack and went traveling with his camera. And when he met my mother, he just kept doing the same thing, and he's writing books about traveling, about trips with us. And yeah, we went to many places, New Zealand, Australia, Hawaii. He built in the 70s, he built a cabin in the bush. I can put a link from that video.
Canada.
Yeah, in Canada. They built a cabin and did a documentary about building a cabin in the wilderness. It's very nice. Well, it's in German. Yeah, so
how long do they stay in the cabin for?
Well, they stayed there for a year. I think he was a year outside of civilization.
So that cabin was in the Mackenzie Mountains up in Canada, and like it's total isolation. The only way in was by float plane. So Jake and his family stayed there for a full year. And how many times did you go there?
I think I was there like six times.
From what age were you there?
I would say 6, and yeah, last trip was there when I was 15, so it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So you spent a lot of time there in the bush, eh?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I realized that now when I'm older, that's yeah, it was awesome experience.
And you had like dinghies, you'd go around in up
dinghies,
rivers,
and we had a license for hunting, so we went duck hunting and fishing, and Yeah, had a few awesome summers there. Yeah.
So Leos would do these sort of adventures a lot in Alaska and the wilds of northern Canada, and he'd go home and write a book about it, take a lot of photos. He was a photographer, and take a lot of photos. He'd go home, write a book, and then, you know, Leos and his family would go around, you know, just Czech Republic mostly.
Yeah, it started in Germany, and then we moved with my family to Czech Republic, and then we just were doing the same thing, just for first in Germany and Czech Republic, and then just Czech Republic.
So do like a
a
slideshow event, like a town hall.
Leos was using Leica cameras and Kodak films, so he never did pictures on digital cameras, and he was doing slideshows with 3 projectors that created a very nice panorama picture, and he was using a wall, like a white wall of the biggest was, I think, 10 meters by 4. That's the biggest one he was using.
Yeah. And how many people used to get to come to the shows?
Some cities they were 2,000 a day, so you had 2 shows a day, one in the afternoon, one at night.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it was very busy. Like Australia was one of the most busiest shows people visited. They loved it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it just was awesome to see that.
So the trip that I did with him also was on a, you know, do you remember that when you're talking about that, like Pacific Crest Trail and the trip where we went on horseback and
yes, yeah.
Did that around Czech Republic and Germany, or?
Yes, that was in the time we were doing it in both countries, like in Germany and Czech Republic. So yeah, people love that too. Just something special. Not everybody's doing so.
So he's real. You know, Leos is really good at getting up and talking and explaining his adventures, and for people in Europe particularly, it's yeah, they loved it. He's quite famous over there, and you know, so he'd take all these photos of these crazy adventures with his family and do these slideshows across Europe. And anyway, that's how I sort of got to know each other through the first pack trip I did with him, and kept in touch. So then 20 years later, I suppose, you know, Jake decided to come and visit and
stay for a while.